Good morning, I'm Dr. Jonathan Oates, Archivist for the London Borough of Ealing, and today we're in Acton Park. We are not going to be talking about Acton Park as a whole, but in particular one of the features of the park which is fairly unique to this park and possibly to most parks in London. It's an obelisk called the Derwentwater Memorial, and in many ways it's very unique because it's the only monument in England to a Jacobite who was executed for high treason in the 18th century. Standing by the obelisk at the north end of the park, which is called the Derwentwater Memorial. This obelisk used to stand in the grounds of a house called Derwentwater House. Derwentwater House was at the southeast end of the road Horn Lane, and it was owned in 1807 by Nicholas Selby, a Catholic, and he called the house Derwentwater House, named after the 3rd Earl of Derwentwater, who we'll talk about later on. In 1904, Horn Lane was being widened for the increased traffic and Derwentwater House was demolished. The last owners of the house, Messrs Curvan, gave the obelisk, which was in the garden of the house, to Acton Urban District Council, and Councillor A.W. King, on behalf of the council, he accepted the obelisk and had it installed at this point in Acton Park. Now, the Earl of Derwentwater was a man called James Radcliffe, born in 1689 and owner of large estates in Northumberland, Cumberland and other northern counties. He was also a Catholic and a Jacobite, which meant that he was a supporter of the exiled James Francis Stuart, the Old Pretender. In 1715 there was an attempt by the Jacobites to replace King George I, the Hanoverian monarch, with James Francis Stuart, whose father had been James II. The rebellion occurred in England and Scotland, and in England one of the leaders of the rebellion was the Earl of Derwentwater. However, the English and Scottish Jacobite army was defeated at the Battle of Preston in November 12th to the 14th, 1715. The Jacobites surrendered. The Earl of Derwentwater was taken with other prisoners down to London, where in February 1716, after a trial at the House of Lords, Derwentwater was found guilty and he was executed on Tower Hill on the 24th of February 1716. Now, you may well say, what has all this got to do with Acton? Well, in one way, not very much, if anything. But in another way, it does, because the Earl's wife, the Countess of Derwentwater, briefly lived in Acton in 1723. Nicholas Selby, the Catholic landowner who owned Derwentwater House in the 19th century, was an admirer of the Earl of Derwentwater, which is why he called his house the Derwentwater House. The obelisk behind me, we do not know exactly when that was made. It was possible it was during Selby's lifetime. However, the actual Earl of Derwentwater, it must be said, never came to Acton alive or dead, and all the myths about him are untrue. However, Derwentwater is remembered in Acton because not only there is the memorial, but there's also a primary school in Acton called Derwentwater School. Thank you. Please remember to like and to subscribe to the channel.